Yo, what's up guys? It's Punches and welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be doing something that's been highly requested for months. And it's going to be a video kind of on how to get into Pure NH. A lot of people ask me a lot of types of different questions. They don't even know where to start. They don't even know how to get their feet wet because they go to Edgeville or they go to Camelot and they just get absolutely destroyed by anybody who's there already because they've been doing it for longer. It's not something that you get good at overnight, but there's a lot of things that could really help you out at the beginning that people just don't know or people don't talk about. I haven't really seen anybody make a guide like this on YouTube, so yeah, I'm excited to get it started. All right, so the first and most overlooked thing before you even get into RuneScape, you got to get your mouse settings in order. This is honestly one of the biggest parts about getting good long term, or just having accurate clicks long term. So what you want to do is you want to go into your mouse settings on your computer, then you want to click additional mouse settings, and it's going to bring you up something like this. So what you want to do is you want to go over to your third option, pointer options. Now, before you mess around with your pointer speed or anything, you want to make sure enhanced pointer precision is checked off. I played with this for a long time with it on, and basically what it does is it doesn't keep your movement of your mouse consistent. So basically what happens is if your mouse is moving fast, it'll make it move it faster, and if it's moving slow, it won't really move all that fast. So the speed of your mouse won't be consistent. So long term, this is going to keep your clicks like super inaccurate. So what you want to do is you want to definitely uncheck this box. All right, so the next thing you want to look at is your pointer speed. This is DPI, which is dots per inch, which is basically how reactive your mouse is to the amount you move it. So the faster your DPI, the further it is to the right, the more reactive your mouse is going to be, and vice versa. The more to the left it is, the slower your mouse is going to be, the less reactive it's going to be. So with something like this, you want to keep it. The computer starts on 6 of 11. There's really no reason to change it from there. What you really need to do is you need to get a gaming mouse where you could adjust DPI. So once you do this, you can download the software from the mouse. And I use a Logitech G403. People use Death Adders. People use different versions of Logitech. Honestly, any gaming mouse where you can adjust DPI is fine. It'll give you the option, which is right here, to adjust DPI sensitivity levels. So I play on 600, 5 out of 11. On a polling rate of 1,000. That's where I'm comfortable. People play lower, people play a little bit higher, but I wouldn't really go above like 1,000 DPI. There's just no need for it. Now, warning, when you first start adjusting your DPI, it's going to feel super weird. It's probably going to take you a few days to get used to it, but just stick with it and eventually it'll feel normal and you'll definitely be better further down the road. Alright, so now that your mouse settings are in order, I want to talk about the stats that you need for Pure NH. Now, this account is a max 75 attack Pure, but you don't need to be max to learn. The one stat I would recommend having is 94 Mage, because it will give you the 20-second hold, as opposed to the 15-second hold that Blitz gives you, or the 10-second that Ice Burst gives you. And it helps with controlling the fight, keeping your opponent frozen for that 20 seconds. But yeah, I would say have like 85 to 90 range, just so you do a decent amount of damage with bolts, because that is where the majority of damage comes from, especially with Ancient Staff. And yeah, you don't need to have max strength, but I'd also recommend having like 90 plus strength, especially if you're learning in PvP. A lot of the people you're going to be fighting are max to begin with. You could find lower levels to fight, but yeah, being closer to max is definitely always an advantage. When it comes to the gear that you use when you're first starting out, this is what I recommend. I'd recommend using an Ancient Staff, an Imbued Cape if you have plenty of them to risk. If you don't have a lot of Imbued Capes to risk, then don't risk them, because remember, you are going to be dying a lot. I'd recommend using a Seer's Ring for the Mage bonus. And the reason for that is that you probably won't be getting that many kills at first anyway, so having strength bonus is not a necessity. And if you start splashing freezes, that's when you start losing control of the fight quickly. I'd say Myth Gloves or Combat Brace, Climbing Boots, Ghostly Rose for the Mage bonus, Dragon Bolts, and an Unholy Book for the Prayer Range and Mage bonus. So this is the gear setup that I'd recommend when you're first starting out. You have your basic three-way, you have your Rune Crossbow, your Black D-Hide Chaps, and your Avas, along with your DDS, Fire Cape, and D-Skim. You don't need to use Fire Cape at first, that's personal preference. You have your 2 Brews, you have your 2 Restores, your Range Pot, and your Super Combat Pot. The Super Combat Pot, you could also use Super Strength if you are low on cash, as Pure NH does take a lot of money to do. You have your Anglerfish if you're 93 plus HP. If you're not 93 plus HP, use Dark Crabs, Mana Rays, or anything else that heals 22 HP. Keep your runes at the bottom. It's obviously you need Bloods, Deaths, and Water Runes for Barrage, and House Taps. So last but not least, you want to set up your F keys before you start PKing. The easiest way to do this is to go to Options, then you go to Controls, and you click Key Binding. Once you're here, you have the option to set your inventory, your spec bar page, your prayer page, and your mage page. Now, I keep F1 is my inventory, F2 is my spec page, F3 is my prayer, and F4 is my mage. You don't have to copy these F keys. Just the one thing I'd recommend is to keep them in order. For example, don't be using F1 and F8. Use 4 across from each other. All right, so the next thing I want to show you guys is where most people go wrong right off the bat, and that's most people get overzealous and they try to go out there and just do a bunch of fancy switches to do a lot of damage, and that's the wrong way of going about it. The first thing you need to be focusing on is your overhead prayers. That's praying range, mage, and melee. Now, you guys will see in this fight how I nail almost every single one of his switches. Like, I'm praying against almost everything he's attacking with, and because of this, I'm able to do a bunch of damage. Doing a lot of damage and taking less damage kind of goes hand in hand. You can't really do a lot of damage with taking a lot of damage because you're going to constantly be eating. So the less damage you take, the more DPS you could do. And then once you learn how to do this, you can kind of start learning how to set up kills and all that. But yeah, I'd focus on at first is making sure you get as many of their prayers possible. Yeah, notice how the first thing I do is switch my prayers. And that's why I'm winning this fight. Like, I think I ate twice this entire fight, or 3 times this entire fight or whatever, and he's like almost out of food at this point. And once you get somebody into this position where you're doing a bunch of damage and they can't really hit you, you have complete momentum over the fight. And a lot of what an H is getting momentum. If you don't have momentum, it's very hard to do a lot of damage. So yeah, how you get momentum is to get all your prayers correctly and hit them off prayer, but more so to get your prayers correctly first. So they can't do damage to you. They can't get you low HP. So yeah, as you're gonna see here, I think he tabs in like a second. I think he tabs when he runs back here. Yeah, so as you can see, I hit him off prayer 20 times and he hit me off prayer 3 times. So that's why I was able to control that entire fight. So yeah, hope you guys understand that a little bit better. I wanted to show you guys what a 1 tick is and just kind of explain what a tick is in general. So I'm sure if you guys have some PKing experience, you understand it. But for those of you that don't, basically a tick is 0.6 seconds. And in pure NH, the whole idea is to 1 tick your attacks. In simpler terms, a 1 tick is basically doing your switch the last possible second of the tick, so your attack goes off immediately. They see your gear at the last possible millisecond, so they don't really have time to react to it unless they guess. And this is the best way to hit people off prayer. So to make it easier to 1 tick stuff, you always want to have your 15% attack prayer that you're using on first. What this does is it lets you prepare for what you're going to attack them with, and they can't see that portion of the switch, right? So all you have to worry about is switching at the correct time. So basically, as you're looking at here, my range gear is on to the last possible second, right? So I'm maging at the last possible second of that tick, and what that does is it makes him have to guess what I'm attacking him with. Notice here again, my range is on, and my XP drop is going off as my gear switches. That's like the ideal scenario that you want going on when you pure NH, because he has no way of predicting that. So just to break it down as simple as possible, super slow down here. Step 1 is putting on your 15%, as you could see. Step 2 is doing your gear switch, as you'll see here in a second. Step 3 is clicking barrage, and step 4 is clicking them. So the whole idea is to do that as quick as possible. So just to go through how to 1 tick a spec real quick here, obviously you're putting on your 15% first, like I talked about before, so that's your strength and attack. Second step right here that you'll see in a second is to click your spec weapon and your fire cape if you're using a fire cape. The third step is to click your spec bar, and the fourth step is to click them. Now again, this all needs to be done in 1 tick. I think this is the hardest thing to 1 tick and get used to. Also, if you're not using a spec bar weapon, it's going to be a little harder to do. So from a rune crossbow, you obviously can't do it as quick. You have to wait for your spec bar to appear. Alright, and lastly, this is how you 1 tick a bolt. Notice I put on my 15% range prayer first, I do my 3-way, and I click them. And my gear goes on as I hit them, as the XP drop goes off. So the one thing that's often misunderstood when you're starting out with pure NH is how to use Brews correctly. There's 2 main ways to use Brews. The first is to brew as you're doing damage. So notice you could brew and you could also bolt at the same time. This will let you continually do damage as you're healing your HP. Now the one downside to doing this is that you lose the ability to barrage. So you could brew and blitz, you could brew and bolt, but you can't brew and barrage. Now notice when you brew twice, you lose the ability to barrage and to blitz. So the only time you're really going to brew twice is when you're super low HP. Now to get back from this brewed down stage, you need to restore once. So remember, after you brew twice, you have to restore to use your mage at all. The second way to use Brews efficiently is to combo eat. So if your HP is getting a little bit low and you need to quickly heal up, you could angler and brew. This is your only way to combo eat in an H, because as I stated at the beginning, using karams are really not necessary, especially when you start hitting your overhead prayers correctly. You're not going to need to triple lead. Double lead is more than sufficient. So as you guys will see in this fight, for the first 20 seconds or so, I don't miss an attack tick. And the reason I don't miss an attack tick is because I'm utilizing my brews and I'm not eating any anglerfish. So notice he's sitting there constantly eating anglerfish, which is why he's not hitting me back. Well, I'm brewing, so I'm doing damage and healing at the same time. This helps me retain control of the fight. Alright guys, so this concludes how to pure H the basics. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I could obviously get into a lot more stuff. I could do that in like maybe a part 2 or part 3 if you guys did enjoy this. But yeah, definitely like the video if it helped you out. And let me know in the comments of anything else you'd like me to talk about or if you guys have any more questions. But yeah, get out there and pure H. Peace.